So, one of the more fascinating things about ancient Mesopotamians is that they believed that the statues of their gods were literally their gods. Now, it's kind of confusing because obviously their gods still dwelled in the heavens or the underworld or wherever the particular god dwelled, but they also believed that the god was very much alive within the statue and they would feed the statues of the gods. Now, in reality, what would happen, and there's actually the story of Bel, which is a deuterocanonical book of the Bible, but the peasants or whoever would come and they'd leave food for the god, and then when they'd leave, the priests would eat the food, but it would be metaphorically or whatever offered to the god. So yeah, so the god was in heaven, but they also literally resided in the statue. In fact, in ancient Mesopotamian creation myth, the gods of Mesopotamia had created humans to serve them because the gods wanted to live lives of luxury and leisure. So the purpose of humans was to grow food for them and give them stuff. So they would put, I think, like cosmetics on the statues. They would bathe them. They would feed them, etc. It was viewed as being literally the incarnation of the god. And on Babylonian New Year, they'd ride the gods through the streets so that they could see the people, and the people could see their gods. And they'd put all the gods in a room together and leave them there for the day. So they put all the statues together because they believed that they could literally converse with each other. Apparently, the statues also made speeches. I don't know how this works, if it was like a priest interpreting it, or if they like pretended that the statue was talking by using ventriloquism or something. I don't know. But that all took part during the New Year. So there's kind of some interesting and, in my view, humorous consequences of this. Since the god itself resides within the statue, if you lose the statue, so long as that statue continues to exist, you can't make another one because Marduk's in his statue. So if that field would know Marduk, then you're screwed. Because the kings of Babylon, to become a king of Babylon, you had to take the hand of Marduk, where literally you would shake Marduk's hand. You'd shake the statue's hand. I think is what it is. I'm not sure exactly what the gesture is. If like you kneeled and you lifted up your hand and touched it, like in Planet of the Apes or something, as a sign of submission, or you shook the god's hand, and that's what made you king. Was that you were accepting your position as Marduk's viceroy on Earth. Very similar to, I guess, coronation in kind of a Christian tradition, except it's as if they believe that the statue of Jesus is literally Jesus. I guess is kind of the is how you would have to think about it. By the way, another funny part of the ceremony is that the priest would punch the king in the face as hard as he could, and if the king cried or teared up, then that meant he would have a glorious reign. If he didn't, then that would mean he would bring disaster upon Babylon. I kind of love ancient Mesopotamia. But yeah, so the king had to take Marduk's hand, or just you could have a king of Babylon. So when the Assyrians invaded Sennacherib, he sacked Babylon. He destroyed all the gods except for the statue of Marduk that he carried away back to Assyria. So the Babylonians had a case of that field with no Marduk, because Sennacherib was saying he was the king of Babylon now, but he hadn't shook Marduk's hand in public. So what were they going to do? So the people of Babylon, they didn't acknowledge him. Okay, true, he was their overlord, but he was not the king of Babylon because he hadn't taken the hand of Marduk. So eventually his son restored the statue to Babylon and took the hand of Marduk, and Babylon had their god back, and they acknowledged him as the true king of Babylon. And it's kind of funny because let's go to the Wikipedia article about Sennacherib for a second, because the Babylonians and Assyrians were two very closely related peoples. They spoke a similar language, etc. So, Sargon, let's see here. Sennacherib took a radically different approach, and there's little sign that he cared about Babylonian popular opinion or took part in the ceremonial duties expected of a Babylonian king, notably the New Year ritual and taking the hand of Marduk. His relations instead were predominantly military. He destroyed the temples and the images of the gods, except for that of Marduk, the creator god and divine patron of Babylon, which he took to Assyria. So once again, this kind of puts a lot of the stuff in the Bible in perspective, like whenever the Israelites destroy a statue or take a statue or something. It's not just a statue. It's just not just like if you were to go into the St. Peter's Basilica and take the I forget what it's called, Our Lady of Sorrows, whatever that beautiful statue Donatello or Michelangelo or whoever carved. You know the one I'm talking about, the one of Mary holding Jesus on her lap. Like, if you destroyed that, that would be horrible. That would be a crime against art. That would be a terrible loss, but it's not metaphysically important. It's not like Jesus resides in the statue. But if you destroy the statues of people's gods in ancient Mesopotamia or the ancient world in general, then you're literally killing that incarnation of their god on Earth. Now, obviously, they could just make another one, but it's interesting because this is something we see in Game of Thrones. The Dothraki believe that many gods exist, but that the Great Stallion is the strongest god. So whenever they defeat a people, they take the statues of their gods back to Vast Dothrak, and they keep them there as a symbol that their god is stronger than the other people's gods because they were able to capture them. So by taking Marduk away, it was literally to the people of Babylon, their patron god is just gone. He's not there anymore. He doesn't reside within Babylon anymore. And this was horrifically disturbing to them. So as part of his campaign, he commissioned a myth in which Marduk had been put on trial by Ashur. And Marduk was found guilty of some grave offense. And that because Marduk had committed a crime, Ashur had asked him to invade Assyria. Invade Babylon, etc. It would eventually lead, though, to Babylon leaving Assyria, and then we have the Neo-Babylonian Empire. But maybe I'll talk about that another time. But just a really interesting. It's such a completely different way of looking at the world than what we're used to. And I think it really puts into perspective, because people have a lot of trouble sometimes understanding like pagan statues, etc. But in a lot of cases, like I said, they were literally viewed as being the dwelling place of the god in question. Obviously, like I said, destroying the statue doesn't kill the god, but it destroys their place on Earth. If the statue of Marduk had been destroyed, then Marduk isn't in Babylon anymore. He's just in heaven. So it's very interesting, and it's also interesting how they stuck with it to the point that there was no king. There was an interregnum in Babylon because there was no king there to perform the ritual. But anyways, I hope that was kind of an interesting little video. If people want me to do more history videos, comment below and I'll do them. I'll talk to you guys later.